Hey guys! Today we're going to be taking a 16th note rhythm exercise, breaking it up into 4 different ways, and really working it through chords and single notes to get your rhythm to the next level when you play guitar. My name's Davis Yates, and this is Guitar Control. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is just go to the description below and pick up the PDF for today's lesson. It's going to have the exercise that we're working in there, it's going to have the tabs for it, the muted strums, whether you're leaving notes out or putting them in, and it's just going to be a great reference for you to kind of look at as you watch this lesson today. So let's get started. Today we're going to be looking at a 16th note exercise. We're going to be working it with a metronome, doing it with single notes, and doing it with chords, and we're going to do actually 2 variations for each one. So you're going to end up with 4 different ways to do this exercise. And that's going to be, a lot of rhythm exercise that you're going to have there. So let me just go ahead and show you what it's going to look like with single notes. This is going to be the most basic pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a note on the 5th fret here on the G string. I'm going to be alternate picking, down, up picking, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like right here. So let me just turn my metronome on. So this is a metronome going at 60 beats per minute. Now you can get one of these that's mechanical that actually has a pendulum that swings. You can get an app on your phone, or you can even just Google it. So the one I'm using right now, if you go into a Google search and you type in metronome, the first thing that will pop up is a little slider with a play button, and it's actually a metronome. So I've got mine set here at 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to be just picking the exercise to show you what it's going to look like. So this is what it's going to look like here. 3, 4. Alright, so did you notice what I was doing there? What I did first was I just started playing straight 16th notes. So I was playing 4 notes for every click. 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. And then one by one I took a note out. First I took the last note out, then the second to last note, then the second note, and then finally the first note out. And so I'm just going to go with you through that one at a time. So the very first thing to do is get your metronome going, which I'll start right here. And once it's going, just feel that pulse a little bit, da, da. And in your head, if you can kind of think 1E and a, 2E and a, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, something to get that 16th note pulse in your body. And then you're just going to translate that to playing guitar. So I'm on the 5th fret of the G string here, and I'm going to do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So go ahead, just play along with me here. Alright, and once you get the hang of playing just straight 16th notes, now what we're going to do is we're going to not play the last note. So we're going to go 1E and then on we're actually not going to play that last note. You can still make the pick stroke past the string, but you're going to want to avoid actually hitting the string. And so that's going to sound like this. Da da da, da da da, da da da, da da da. So you've got 3 notes in a row, and you got a bit of a pause. So why don't you go ahead and try playing that along with me. So that's when you take the last note out. So the next thing you do is, you guessed it, we're going to take the second to last note out. Now you're going to have 2 in a row, a pause, and then the 4th one. And the 4th one is going to lead right back into the start again. So you're going to get this sound of da 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 da. And so that's going to go like this. Awesome. And so now the next time, we're going to take out the second note in the pattern. And that's going to sound like da, 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 da. So now we got a little pattern there. And this one is known as well as kind of a galloping pattern. So when you hear songs like The Trooper by Iron Maiden or a lot of the metal stuff, and you get this dun digga dun digga dun, or Barracuda is a great example by Heart. Dun digga dun digga dun digga dun digga dun. That's that pattern of 16th notes where you're playing the first one, skipping the second one, and then playing 2. And that last one again leads right back into the start. So that's going to sound like this. Awesome. And then we've just got one more to do here, and that's to skip playing the first note. Now this can be a little bit tricky because, you know, we're very used to playing with a metronome every time that it clicks. So this might be the first time that you've actually played every time except for when the metronome is clicking. So if this one's a little bit tricky for you, don't worry about that. You know, just work it and eventually it will become kind of natural. So that's going to sound like this. It's going to da 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 da. And so sometimes I'll still kind of feel that I just won't play it. There's a difference between feeling it and playing it. So when we play this one now, it's going to sound like this. 3, 4. And now something I should mention here that I didn't already is we're still keeping that same down, up pattern for all of this, regardless of if we're playing the notes or not. So for example, in that last one that I just played, you might have noticed that I was going up, down, up. Even though I didn't play the first note, which would usually be the down, I didn't actually, I could have played it down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, but I didn't. You know, I played up, down, up. And the reason for that is it's just going to get your body really used to this constant right hand motion of down, up, you know, always just down, up, the steady, 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 down, up. And so even if you go ahead and you don't play the first one, you're still used to playing the first one there, so you're going to end up on an upstroke for the second one. So that goes for all of them, and that's going to be laid out in the tab there. Underneath where the numbers are, you're going to see D's and U's, and those are going to be downs or ups depending on what you're doing. And so the next thing that you can do with this is try to cycle them one after another. So you'd play the first one, which was all 16th notes, for let's say 2 or maybe 4 times in a row, and then you'd try to go straight into the next one, which would be skipping the last note. And so that's what I did when I showed you the exercise to begin with. But I'll do it one more time here for you. So what we're going to do, and you can grab your guitar too, is we're going to play each cycle twice. And that's going to go like this. 3, 4. And there it is. Boy, that sure went fast, didn't it? All right, so at this point you might be wondering, okay, well, what's the other way to do it with single notes? And so I'll tell you right now. What we're going to do this time is our right hand is actually going to pick throughout the whole time, always down, up, down, up. And instead of not picking that one note, each different section, we're going to just not play it with our left hand. And so what that looks like, this is something that's a bit tricky at first. So you might want to sit here and just and do this for a little bit. If you play a note, so let's say I play this note here, and if I would let pressure off of this finger here, eventually that note will stop. Like that. There it goes. So you can tell, off. There. So it just stopped right like that. Now what you don't want to do is really pull your finger off like that. If you pull your finger completely off the string, you're going to get all these open string noises. It's not going to be a clean cut. And what we want is just a clean cut for that one. And also we want for when we pick it for it to be muted. So you're going to let off pressure just enough so that the note stops. And your finger is actually going to be still on the string. So that if you pick it again, you can hear that it's muted there. So the first step of this exercise is the same as the last one. It's just playing straight 16th notes. So let me get my metronome back on. All right, so you're probably used to this by now, so I'm just going to play this just for a second, but you can join in with me here. So here we go. 3, 4. Perfect. So just like before, that's the same step. And something that I kind of want to mention here while we're talking about it is that motion to get nice clean picking like that is going to come mostly from your wrist here. So what you don't want is a whole bunch of from the elbow, sort of like all one stiff, rigid movement like this. That's going to be really inefficient. It's going to make your arm really tired, especially when we get into strumming chords here. So what you want is really kind of everything in your hand to stay fairly stable, and this just little motion from the wrist to bring your pick down and then up. And you can think of it like kind of like a turning motion or a straight vertical, or what it usually really is a combination of the two. Now this is a very personal thing, picking technique. You know, you'll get guys that swear by floating, by keeping their wrist not on. Then you get people that swear by keeping their wrists anchored. And then you get people that, you know, always pick slant downwards or at a 45-degree angle. You have people that pick slant upwards. You have people, you know, there's lots of, if you go on YouTube and you look up some alternate picking videos, especially ones regarding speed, you're gonna see that there's a bunch of different ways to work on exactly how you hold your pick for this. What I am gonna suggest is that you try to make the motion mostly from your wrist here. So that's another just little pro tip about doing this sort of alternate picking stuff. So now, the components of the exercise are exactly the same as before. You take out the last one, then the second to last one, the second one, and then the first one. But like I said, we're still gonna pick it. What we're gonna do is just let the pressure off our finger here. And if we go 1, 2, 3, on that fourth one, we're gonna let the pressure off on our left hand here and do that up pick. And you hear it's muted. So you get 1, 2, 3, mute. 1, 2, 3, mute. So I'm just going to do that a couple times. You can join me here. Mute. 1, 2, 3, mute. 1, 2, 3, mute. And then depending on which part of the exercise we're in, you're just going to do that in a different spot for each one. Let me get that metronome back on here. And so what we're going to do is da 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 and mute the last one. So this is the second part of the exercise here. And it's going to sound like this. 3, 4. All right, and then we can move quickly right on to the next one, which is going to be taking out the second to last one. And you're going to hear these or maybe feel these kind of in the same way. So this next one I feel as da 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 da. And there might be a song that you can think of or a strumming pattern that you can think of that has that sort of sound. I feel like I'm hearing something from a movie that's kind of like jun 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 jun, like strings, like violins or something. So let's go ahead and try this next one now. That's going to go 3, 4. So you can hear that one that I mute. Da da ta da 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 ta da 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 ta da da. And you can see my right hand isn't stopping. All right, and then we move to the next one now, which is taking out the second note, and you get this da 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 da. So that's going to go ahead and look like this. 3, 4. Awesome. And then we have one last one. And this one you might actually find easier than not playing it. And that's that we're going to do a mute every time that the click happens. And then you get this up, down, up afterwards. That's going to sound like this. 3, 4. There you go. That's all the different components. So now just like the last one, I'm going to do it here. And last time felt a little bit short, so let's do it 4 times for each cycle. So we're going to do 4 cycles of each pattern. So here we go. 3, 4. First pattern. Second. Third. Fourth. And fifth. It is. All right, now, and just as a little fun practical example of that, I want to show you that in funk music, this actually comes up a lot in guitar playing. And so that's going to look something like this. You get this happening a lot if you listen close to some funk stuff, you know, James Brown or that, you'll get this sort of thing. and that's just kind of a little example. If you take a look at my right hand here, I'm actually playing straight 16th notes, and then I'm just kind of tapping my fingers on to get the notes when I want them. So that's just kind of like a practical example of how doing this sort of an exercise can actually help you with playing actual songs. This isn't just an exercise in isolation sort of thing. It's a real practical thing to learn. And so now let's move on to the next section here, which is going to be doing this same exercise with chords. Now it works best with bar chords, but bar chords are pretty tough. So, if you're a beginner, don't worry about doing this sort of exercise with bar chords. The only reason it's easier is when you want to mute, you can just let the pressure off your whole hand, just like we were doing with the single note. Whereas with an open chord, what you're gonna have to do to stop it is let's take an A chord. We're gonna do all of this with an A chord. So I like to do my A chord right here, first finger just barring the second fret. But to stop the sound of it, not only do I have to let up with my first finger, but I have to kind of drop my other fingers onto the strings. And now when you drop them onto the strings, you want to drop them very gently. You don't want to, if you go too hard, you're gonna actually fret the lower strings. So you want to just let off that pressure and let these fingers just come very, very gently. Just land and rest right on top of the strings there very nicely. So that'll be the first thing to get kind of used to, because this is what you're gonna have to do to stop the note when we get to that part. But for starters, we can just work the exact same right hand thing that we were doing in the first exercise, the very first one that we did, but now we're gonna be doing it with strumming. And so the first thing that you're gonna have to get used to is strumming 16th notes. So just like we were playing, now if we take an A chord, you're gonna get used to your hand just strumming up and down, like this. All right, and that's gonna be the very first one. So now we can work through all of the other ones in the same way that we did. So the second one's gonna look like this, skipping the last one. 3, 4. Da, da, da. And notice how my hand still kind of bounces up on that last strum so that I can start with a down again. This is about keeping that down up pattern consistent. There we go. And moving on to the next one, taking out the second to last one, you're going to get this pattern. 3, 4. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And you'll notice some of these patterns almost work just like strumming patterns. There's actually some songs that use these kind of as their strumming patterns. All right, so that's the second one. So now let's move on to the third one, which is going to be taking out the second note. And that's going to sound like this. 3, 4. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. All right, and then we just have one more to do, and that one more is not playing the first note. So that's gonna sound like this. 3, 4. Up, down, up, down, up. All right, and now we're headed into the next and final section, which, like the second section of the single notes, means that we're just going to be keeping this right hand steady and actually doing those muted notes. So like I was talking about earlier with the chords, with this chord, you're going to have to let the pressure off and let these two fingers kind of cover the strings so that you get a muted strum there. So unmuted, muted, unmuted, muted. And so that first one is going to be down, up, down, muted on the up, like that. And so let me get my metronome back on, and we'll kind of work through these. So I'll skip the straight 16th because I think you're probably comfortable with that at this point. So we're going to do the first one, which is going to be taking out the last note. So we're going to get this sort of a sound. Da da da. So notice my right hand really steady, just doing those down ups forever. And my left hand just kind of doing that little mute. And then after that one, what you get is just like every other time, you know, that's what I like about this exercise is it's easy to remember because it's the same components every time. It doesn't matter if you're doing single notes, muting, not muting, chords or anything, it's the same components. So the next time we take out the second to last note, and that's going to sound like this. 3, 4. Right, there we go. And that sounds like a bunch of songs. You know, I think of some CCR songs when I think of that one. So let's move on to the next one, which is going to be muting the second note in the pattern. So you're going to get this da, 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 da. It's going to sound like this. 3, 4. And then we've just got the last pattern here, which is just going to be taking out the very first note. And once again, this might be a little bit easier because now at least you get to strum for when the metronome hits. So it's going to sound like this. 3, 4. Alright, so that's all of the exercises that I had planned for you here today. And one thing I want to mention here is I went through all of them with the metronome at 60 beats per minute, like I said. And that's what I really encourage once you get the feel of them anyways. But for starters, by all means, go through very slowly, especially when you're doing the strumming ones. You know, it's totally okay if you're doing, for example, the first pattern, down, up, down, and then the mute on the last one, to really look at it and to go down, up, down, mute, and just no metronome or anything, just at your own time, getting used to the feeling of the pattern. And you do this for all of the different patterns and try to, like I said, think of songs or certain rhythms that get stuck in your head so you can kind of remember the sound of them. And that's going to be what I really encourage you to do first, and then get the metronome going, and that's going to be what really tightens it up for all the rest of your playing. You're gonna blow people away with your rhythm if you really practice your 16th like this. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson here today. And I want to hear from you. Is one of these rhythms your favorite? You know, do you like the da 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 or the da 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 da? If there's one that really speaks out to you, just leave it in the comments down below, along with any questions or concerns that you might have. And make sure you give a like and a subscribe. There's going to be lots of new videos coming up on this channel, and I want you to see them all. So I hope you have a really great day wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next lesson.